Welcome back to the channel and another one of our CC playthroughs, and in this one we're going to look at Vermilion Range by mattf. And Matt clearly flaunting that he designed this in 2K21 first of all by using the gold tees just to spite HB. Love to see it. Now, what he's put on here is should play in all winds, up to fast green speeds if preferred. We'll leave it on defaults. And the looks of it, we've got a Swiss style course which we like. I don't think I'll set a wind speed and direction. It can just be whatever we get given. It's got the past tempo, so river winds through 8 holes. We like that. R5 under 550, which is the 18th, so scoreable 18th. And then the 11th hole is a short template. Lovely framing off the first tee. We're going to do the usual of just zooming out and around. Nice. So kind of a Swiss hilly plot. I've got to say, default Swiss trees look really good in this game. And the big river immediately makes you think of falling water, those are big shoes to fill. And you can see how there's a couple of par threes working across the river. That's a good way to get across it on one single tee shot. Very effective. You've got this, which is a long hole playing down towards it, possibly a 5. Like the look of, we've got a cape sort of hole playing that way. And yeah, some holes playing down and around it. Oh, okay, so over here. I like the way it keeps coming back to it. So routing wise looks like that's been an effective use of the feature, and you're not just constantly hopping back and forth over it. It kind of looks like you play away from it for a bit and then you come back, which is an effective use of how it plays. Hopefully it comes into play pretty strategically as well. Otherwise, kind of the usual nice matte framing bunkers that they look pretty. Otherwise, I'm not sure a ton much more to see. We got a cart path in places. Is it down? It's just between tees and greens, so that works as well. Okay, yeah, it's just yeah, between tees and fairways and things like that. Interesting. Okay, so we've got some crowds, which is always fun. So I'm gonna leap ourselves back up to here. Oh, we do have a clubhouse. Or rather, we got a shed. Ah, there's our clubhouse, which is the stock Swiss sort of clubhouse, but to be honest, there's not much better that you can get for this look. I've got some tables and some stuff around it. Yeah, clubhouse is present and functional and in a logical place. Okay, so we're going to keep. Oh my! How many tee boxes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tee boxes. And it looks like there might have once been one here at some point. Okay, going all the way up to the top of the hill. One thing you kind of would notice is there's kind of, I want a bit of planting behind the first tee because you often get those little views back at the golfer where they put those in, like that will just clean this up. Straight away we go in with a long par 4, but it's significantly downhill. You got those 2 centerline bunkers, but a ton of width. You can choose where you go. Big green, lots of slopes, like really bold opening start, which I like. Like we don't see Matt do this as like all that often. I feel like Copper Dunes did this, and it's for my money probably still his best course. I'm gonna try and go down here because I feel like I've got more of a chance of holding this side of the fairway. The bunkers are in a good scale as well. Like everything sort of fits. I've played a number of Matt courses. I kind of bits of what to expect, I think, and you're expecting the kind of really pretty bunker shapes. Like everything is like the floor on a Matt course is really, really high. My question is always like, can we keep pushing the ceiling? And this first hole is kind of doing that for me. The things that I do think can occasionally get away from you is little bits of sightline sculpting, like this land being higher than this bunker is always blocking that from here. And I think that's partly the way you do your sculpting, like with the click and drag stuff. That tends to happen. I think you've opened up this bunker really nicely. That shows really well. I like the undulation that's in play here. It's never really in play, but you're carrying it, and there's all sorts of room to hit a bump and run shot. There's some really interesting contours on this green. It's kind of like almost got 2 bowl areas and then a little bit of a plateau that feeds into the back bowl. So like there's lots going on. I like this one a lot. And we're heading back into that spine. Not exactly left myself the best putt here. And in probably appropriate fashion, given it's a matte course, we've had an crash there, so HB. Anyway, not an easy putt, but for a long par 4, I think the screen works really well. There's all sorts, like if you're online, you've got all the forgiveness in the world in terms of depth of approach. It's just like laterally offline is going to cause more issues. Kind of going here-ish. Yeah, we misread that horribly. Anyway, it's a pretty nice, easy par. I like the little splashes of coloured grass back up there. I think the planting is solid. I don't think it's really... It's certainly not groundbreaking in the sense that, like, it pretty standard Swiss planting, some underbrush, some rocks, stuff. It's all really serviceable. And I like it. It's just not necessarily doing anything that hasn't been done before. I think you knew that. I would be wary of sculpting just on the edges of here. I think you probably need to flatten that out, because if people are landing here, they're bouncing off into the water, which some people will consider that kind of unjust punishment, rightly or wrongly. And as for this green, I like that you've taken this bunker away from the front of the green a little bit. I feel like you could have done a green that's more in harmony with the water and where it is. Strategically, I don't. It's on the water side. I don't really feel like I'm ever going to have to be challenging the water, and it's quite a big green for a long downhill hole. Could have probably made it a bit smaller as well. As is, kind of feel 3-wood's more pinch than driver is. Driver with the elevation, I'm always getting over that. But different drivers, I guess, I'm in way over it. Which does bring in, I guess, the question of I'm leaving myself a pitch. Do I really want to? I mean, it's beneficial compared to where we were. I thought the first hole was really bold and different, and this one kind of feels like it's a bit more anticlimactic. It's just kind of things I could have done, like how do you make me play close to the water down here? I think have a straight edge to the fairway so that, because the little loops and kinks, you're wanting someone to get that angle to get to a back pin. Probably want to make this narrower again. You want to angle it a little bit more, and you want to straighten up the fairway so that people can play there and roll out. If they're landing here, they're rolling into heavy rough. If they're landing here, they're rolling to here. You can't really ever access this little bit of fairway if that's what we're playing for. And the way the green is, it's so big that I don't think it really... You can play over here and I'd still be happy hitting a lob wedge to the back part of the green, which is kind of the most angled part. But yeah, again, like really solid, serviceable hole. Definitely CC difficulty. I'm struggling with my first putt length. Love that view back up a different hole. Haven't seen that one yet. And all the way to the clubhouse, like sight lines are really good, as you would expect. And the long looks, I like that you haven't put too much underbrush so we can see through to here. Like as mentioned at the start, the floor on this course is going to be really, really high. Okay, and we've got bunkers. This one's kind of, you have to take driver over the bunkers, because if we're laying up, we're into a very heavy upslope, which I think you probably need to be smoothing out a bit more, because that's going to be rolling us back, which, again, I think this is kind of how you do sculpting. It's the flatten whilst dragging side to side, and that does cause, I'm trying to get a good angle, these sorts of issues where that's really pretty severe. And it's not in the landing zone, but it does take away a layup if I didn't fancy this, which probably we do. It's kind of managing elevation change and hitting over the bunkers. The bunkers frame nicely. No issues there. I'm just going to hit to somewhere up here. That tee shot kind of feels more just like getting me to from point A to point B. I didn't really have to think all that much, because I'm always going for it. There's no other real option. Okay, I like the dip in the fairway here, just because it adds a little bit of visual variety. I think it's doing much playability wise though. It's just kind of there, which is okay. I guess it does if you hit the bunker, but then if we're hitting the bunker, then we're taking away a recovery shot and further penalising an already penalised player. Same sort of thing with the sculpting here. I think just needs a little bit more, just tiny bits of attention to detail. Like I'd be softening this slope or making it so it's a little less flat, and then it's really quite flat here and then dies off suddenly. Now, this approach does give me cause for question, because can I carry that all the way there? I might have been tempted with this one to go with more of a side-on green, tucking behind these bunkers a little more. I think these bunkers are kind of just framing, really, because although these ones come into play, these two I don't think really do. Look out for us hitting into it. The green, yeah, I feel like your green is kind of not really in sync with the rest of the hole. Like once we get there, then it's just got, there's kind of two tiers. We've got back tier, tier here, tier here. It's just going to be a 2-putt probably. Don't know if I can make it. Suspect I can't. We're going to try. How about if we do that? Probably just bring in bad tempo. Oh, yeah, we just about can. See, that feels like a really heroic shot, and part of what I'd like about that being a side-on green is you could really ramp up the pressure on if you're going for it. Do you have the club? That sort of thing, rather than just once you get there, then you're 2-putting. Because the length of the green is almost a little too forgiving for the shot you're playing, in my opinion. Well, that's on a decent line. We're slowly getting better with the club selection. Might try and bring in a couple of different kinds of grasses or plants as well. Like we're filling the space nicely, but we could tie these in. A few more different colours would really help this pop, especially when the pines are all obviously the same colour, and that totally makes sense. Just adding that little bit of visual splashes would really help lift this a bit more. But again, really solid hole. I like that approach. That's something a bit different. This tee shot looks really good. I would probably lower your bridge about 5 feet. Really let us see those bunkers over it. Would look better. I feel maybe this one's sitting a touch awkwardly, like here seems to be popping up a little more than we might like. I think lowering, because you've raised this bit to sculpt here, I think probably lowering just here would really help. And I'd love to see the kind of grass planting and underbrush just creeping up to the bottom of these bunkers, which would really tie it in with the environment. As is, we're kind of playing with elevation change, and I think we can always carry this corner. Yeah. And we are rolling out down here, but it's always kind of safe. I wonder whether, again, we could play with that tee shot a little bit more and just be like, well, maybe the fairway cambers more this way and you want to think about where you're landing it, or maybe your preferred angle from the fair is this side, so you want to weigh up how far you're going down and where you're rolling out. It just kind of feels like all of the advantage on most of the holes has been if you carry these bunkers, you get all of the advantage. If you don't, you get all of the disadvantage because you've got the bad angle and the distance. I might like to see us play with that a little more. We're down 17. That said, compared to a number of courses, I also really like this bunkering short of the green. I think that looks really nice. I would just love to see the bunkers have, like, it started out feeling really rugged, and it's kind of like it's a really clean course in a quite a rugged environment. If you look at what a guy like RJ Wilson will do, it's bringing in some of that environment towards the playable surfaces and really integrating them. I think that would lift this hugely. Just little spots of planting creeping down here and into the bunkers, and let's rough those bunkers up a little bit, make them a bit more random, and I think immediately this course takes on a bit of a different feel. I probably also like some runoff that's green here, although I get that that's kind of like the green contouring on this one's interesting. You've got a little bit of a thumbprint here, which means that it, and I like the back tier, that means that it's making me challenge it a little bit more. Yeah, actually, I think this is my favourite green so far because a small back tier with like trouble behind, I think, is a nice. And actually, this one's not that small. It looks smaller than it is, but it's a nice way to force precision on that approach shot. Somewhere down here will be good. And the elevation change makes you kind of catch your heart a little bit more. Would have been cool to have a bit more of a severe runoff on the back. Like, I get that we don't want to punish people too much, but it would be good to have that trouble back. So if you drop this bit of land, I don't know, these 3 feet up, about that 5 yards or so, and drop that about 3 or 4 feet really pretty severely, then it will run down and it will collect here, and then you've got the chip back up towards a green that runs away from you a little bit. Like little things like that, I think it's that detail work that's enhancing the rest of the whole strategy that we're lacking just a little on the first few. Oh no, that's an awful putt. Ah, praise the green and everything, and then there we go. Still, lots to like so far. Okay, 5. So this is one I remember seeing from the flyover. And you would want to be playing close to here in order to get your best angle into the green. And I feel like the bunker here is perhaps a bit of a. You've used the river and you've run it through, and the hole is rooted really, really well. I just don't think strategically it's quite hitting all the notes it could do. If we tucked the green right down here, put the bunkers high, the bunker below, it works visually, but I'd love to see the water in play a bit more than it is. And then you really encourage us to play close to the water for that line into the green. I don't really understand the bunkering here because this is the most protected part of the fairway, and yet that's not the angle we really want. And also, if you've got water left, I'd be hesitant to put any hazards right, frankly. I don't dislike the bunkers visually. I think the cluster of 3 works. I think the centre line looks a touch awkward. I feel like this hole probably needed another draft because it's on such good land right by the creek, and like that's the part of run through the generous cut of light rough as well. I feel like that's where you want to be going for your absolute best hole designs and going, right, this is where it needs to be. Okay, we're kind of segmenting the green a little. I feel like the first hole did the spines a bit better than this one does, partly because of the distance. The spines work really well on that long kind of approach. This one is a bit awkward in that it's funneling some of the ball. We've got slopes running you into rough, which is a personal pet peeve because it's a little more punitive. Maybe we need to. In heavy rough, though. I think for me, what I would have found a little easier would have been if we just camber the fairway hard, like pretty hard, right to left, flatter portion down here, tuck the green close here, make it a bit smaller, and then suddenly you want to be down here. If you're up here, then you've got a draw lie for a righty, and that's playing you towards the bunkers, and that's an awkward shot from an awkward angle. But you're not taking on the danger off the tee shot. I think just keeping it really simple would have worked. We're just going to clear the water. Ooh, we got a really bad lie. That's okay. Well, it's a good thing it wasn't water, sure. Lovely. And I like that we get the view of the next hole. Like I said at the top, I remember when I played this in a society event not being able to hole a putt for love nor money. It seems like that is continuing. Comfortably not the most difficult CC course, and yes, I'll probably shoot the highest on it. So bunkering here, like visually, strikes me as a bit odd because there's a real straightness to it, whereas all of the land is implying high left to low right. I'd have probably been digging a bunker there, diagonal one little here, maybe pop one above, like try and really reinforce that left to right. I feel a bit a bit odd giving Matt framing tips because Matt taught me most of what I knew at the start. But I think like, I would be doing everything to be in harmony with the land and emphasising that left to right slope, which is the really cool nature of this hole. The green itself is really wide and therefore has an interesting playing characteristic. Probably want a little bit of fairway around it just for forgiveness. But I think this works. I really like the planting. I like the minimalist kind of approach to this. It's just very clean and works really well. Let's just swing for a change. Go on. Sit down close to the hole. Please. It's not too bad. But again, I think that's a prime candidate for a hole like thinking like Pine Valley 5, for example. You've got that a hillside par 3 with the bunkers all like dotted in. Like that's the kind of vibe I think we're going for. Like if you were integrating the environment within those bunkers and dotting them more on the diagonal, I think you've got a real winner there. Okay, 7. Another one where if you have the you carry the bunker and you get all the reward. And it's kind of a side on green. Like there's not really an angle we can get. But and I even get a kicker slope if I carry that bunker. I think we can change that up just a little. I love the green side though. I think it sits on a really cool piece of land. Like I wonder whether we could pop the green a little bit further back because some of this apron is not. I like that it's there. I think it's maybe a little large, and partly that's because you want to use this surface. I think the trick was to we chuck the green round here a little bit more. Maybe even brought the tee shot back a little so that you were facing those bunkers. Just check I'm playing off the right tees. Yeah, it's a short hole. Didn't really feel there was that much trouble in play off the tee, which is odd for a short hole. It's an awful approach shot. Doesn't matter when you can't play any approach shots and you can't putt. Somewhere there. Yeah, environment-wise as well. Like we've got the few bushes here. I'd like to see a bit more. My default is just sink some massive oak trees or something and block out all of the back stuff. Right. Make sure that we can't really see through to empty autogen planting. Damn it. Love the view back up to, I want to say that's the second hole we're looking down. Well, the scorecard's colourful at least. Okay, number par 3. Really downhill par 3. Really downhill par 3 and no bunkers, which we like. Then if you're going to do this, I would not be putting trees in the way on this long of a hole. Because we could use that space to, like, if you are going to do this, it's a little tree island, like about here, and you land it just either side, but you've got lots of space to play either way. And it would be really cool if, say, you could bounce it here and have it run on to the pin back here, and it's more of a boomerang. It would feel a little bit forced, perhaps, but that could work. But as is, I think they're just taking. It means that we have to hit straight at this pin rather than having like all of this lovely forgiveness where it's just like, oh, I'll land it somewhere in here and it will roll on down and I'm safe. Like it's kind of taking away that really cool shot. Equally, I'd probably clear out these 3 trees as they're blocking the view of the river, or at least one of them. It would be really good to see the water hazard. From here, actually, you don't necessarily know there's water directly left of the green. As it is, I'd love to have like this hole be somewhere where I land here and it feeds it round, but it's not really that. It's kind of just you gauge the elevation change and you hit down at it. Which could be one way to approach the pin, but it'd be cool to have the option to go around it. And we've not gauged the elevation change. Sit hard. Oof. It's a pretty difficult par 3. I could have played for the middle, admittedly. That is very much on me. We do not have a shot. probably as good as I could have hoped for. There's so much of this I really like. And again, rooted really nicely around the water. This is a cool little nook in the routing, and I like that you just got the natural environment around it. Like this is really nicely planted. It's not too much, it's not too little. Probably add a variety of trees or like extra bits of grasses, but it works. And there's enough space to let the hole breathe. And I like that you can see back up to, I want to say that's 3. This is 2. Like, there's a real sense of connection with the course. Nope. And we're dropping another one. That's going to be a tough hole, I think. And we're on to 9 already. Quite quickly. Okay, so this one we're hitting back over the water, but it's purely kind of incidental, really wide fairway. And I guess we get a bit of a benefit if we go this side. It's shorter. We don't really get an angle benefit either side. You're always carrying this bunker. I guess less so from here, but because you're carrying a false front, you might as well be carrying the bunker. So the centre line's more just, I think, a little bit of an annoyance. Again, edge of fairway sculpting, like we would run off there. This fairway looks huge from the tee, and yet it doesn't really feel that way when you're aiming your shot. Classic HP aiming us into the bunkers. I think a tendency is definitely to chuck a green perpendicular to the line of play, and that kind of takes away a lot of the angle possibilities, particularly when it's a up the corner dogleg. It makes the decision for you often. I'd be trying to look at where you're angling your greens a little bit more. The use of elevation change has been really good, though. That's kind of added much needed variety to all of these holes and how they play. Okay, 10, and we're opening up off the back nine, par 5. I don't think I can carry these. So this one's more of a narrows. I love the look down at this green. So in my head, this is now just a commentary, this is not a critique. In my head, kind of like more of a narrows, which I guess this is like you're offering people the chance to lay back. I think this is the sort of approach shot that I would be saying to myself when designing. I want everyone to hit this shot and everyone to be having a go at the green. So therefore, I'd probably not be choking down the drive a lot and just offering loads of space out here. Because the further you go this way, you might need to angle the green a little bit more. Like here, you're hitting a little bit over the water. I think angling the green would have helped a touch more. Almost turning it that way, touch, not as extreme as that, but the way, so that if we did bail out here, maybe we're on a side hill lie that's pushing us this way, and you're kind of cutting over the corner of the bunkers and trying to almost take a draw off a fade lie, like that sort of Augusta 13 kind of conundrum. Whereas you're risking people laying back, and then they're just hitting kind of blind over these bunkers, which is always going to be a slightly awkward thing. The sculpting of these is going to be really difficult because the elevation change. So as is, I don't mind the narrows concept though, because you haven't done that before. Okay, and now we get our 5-iron off that slightly canted lie. The green looks really open and inviting though. And I like this slope that runs us down towards the back. I think this feels like it's going against the grain generally, which would be kind of going that way. But it's not a big deal. Did that get there? 40 feet, another 10. 234 odd. 224. Yeah, I think that's right. Especially as we're off a downhill lie. I think the real risk is pulling it into the bunkers. Oh, I didn't get a kick right. It was the right club as well. Yeah, I really like that approach shot. I think the tee shot's okay. The approach shot's really good. a fun hole to play. Use of elevation change has been really nice on this course. I think that's been a real strength of the course. So this is your short par 3. Yeah, this is gorgeous. I like the green as well. The little tier at the back is nice. It just asks people to take on that little bit more. You've got a few beads that are going an awkward direction, so some are going this way. Like you could really nitpicking. I'm also annoyingly in between clubs. I do like that this slope, I would probably soften it a little so that it's more of a consistent slope. If you're in those back bunkers, that's a nightmare. Kind of why I think you probably want to reclaim some pinnable space up here and make it all like a light green slope, maybe going this way, because that way if the pin is here and people miss in the bunkers, they're not getting up and down. Whereas I think if they go in the bunkers now, they just plop it onto this slope and it'll roll down. Felt like a decent enough swing. Safely aboard. That's a really nice, like that's the best par 3. By some distance. Yeah, and that's not an easy hole. And like, okay, it's not a traditional short in terms of how it's been bunkered, but it works as such. It doesn't have the thumbprint, but they don't all have to. I think that's the best shot, the best hole on the course, and those last 2 shots back to back, and this one, really strong. This one possibly a bit punitive if you're not going. Again, it's kind of pushing us to really take the corner on. But then it's a short par 5. I don't mind that. I don't mind goading people into hitting over trouble. I would probably create a little more width here and maybe losing this bunker and angling this one a touch more. Or having both, but like give us all world over here to lay up. So that then it's, because what you really want to do is put indecision in people's minds and go, well, I could hit driver here and there's all that fairway, look at what I'd gain. But there's this really tempting option of just hitting 3-wood up here and I've got loads of space, or hitting a partial driver down here and it'll be safe and I can plod my way down. I think you just need that little bit more space out here. As is, most people are going over here, and that's a scary looking tee shot. And it means you're going to reach for that fast a little bit. And now we're on that side hill lie, which I like. I would like the fairway to be cambering just generally a bit more, rather than I'm kind of stuck on a little bit of the mound, but that's by the by. I really like the 5-3-5 stretch. That's been nice. The green's perhaps a little funky. I think you're going to struggle to get to that back pin, but it's doing something different, which we're all good with. I don't know what this slope is going to do. Not the slow. Not the slow. It's a really good par 5. It's simple, but totally effective. Great drop. Where's my bridge to get back over, huh? I guess it's there. Still a long walk. I mean, that is causing all sorts of pace of play issues. He's putting more stupid bridges to allow for HB's drop physics. And that's a really bad chip. We're going to make another bogey. Or even a double. Yep. Little bits of planting back here, like the empty space. I love this planting, just needs more stuff under here to block out that view a bit more. Doesn't need much, but when you're playtesting, like, keep looking for whatever emptiness grabs your eye. I really like that hole as well. Okay, followed up by a drivable par 4, which is sub driver, which I don't love the sub driver par 4s, but it's interesting. And I like that we've gone with a smaller green. If I'm on a wrong tier, that's not necessarily an automatic 2-putt, so that works. Quite choked on the way in, so that also works. I think you might be. You could have probably ramped up the contours on this one even more. I think just general slope on this green, like I'd have tilted hard front to back even more. So if you go long, you are really struggling because you're giving people all the room to hang themselves. Again, though, for the perpendicular green, I don't really think if I am laying up, there's no reason to lay up here rather than here because of how the green is. Would be my one comment. Oh, we'll just yank it miles left into a bunker. But I think that's okay. Bunker depth here is a bit shallow. As ever, just trying to nitpick and give you absolutely all I got. Oh, the hard fast might have helped us. There we go. Okay, we're back to even par. Really struggling. Yeah, bunker sculpting on these back ones, I think we could be dropping a little more. Like, possibly needed another pass, particularly if I think if you were designing in 21, that might need a little more. I love the bunkering around this green. I think that looks really good. It's a shame this pin's on this side. I think it would look great for a pin over here. Once again, I'd love it if you brought the planting in just in front and like had this green, not just like the bunkers coming out of the planting, and then this green kind of over a little ravine. I think would have looked awesome. I think that's just bringing the planting a bit closer to your playable surfaces would have done so much for this course. And for a green with mostly green slopes, this one, yeah, so it has more of a back to front slope, which means that distance control is paramount, which makes sense with the bunker short. I like this green a lot more than quite a lot of the others. I think this one works really well. Because this is no trivial part. Okay, we'll take a par. Yep. And like these sorts of cutaways are great for seeing like what is a player going to see on this spot. Like, that sort of stuff matters. Okay, sort of narrowing down, and then we've got all of the bunkers. 458, and we've taken away the front of the green, and we've got. This is a bit of a step up in difficulty on that approach shot. With the distance to the bunkers, decisions kind of made as to where we're going. It's too long for me to ever lay up with 3-wood. If I did lay up with 3-wood, leaves me with 175 into a front pin with a tier behind it. We can't do that. And actually, your angle benefits over here anyway, so there's no real point in challenging the bunkers. Well, there's an angle benefit, such that it is. We've done. I'm going to go back at the end and count the number of perpendicular greens because I don't think you realise maybe how much you do it. We play there. I like the idea of greens cutting off disconnected greens. I'm not sure a 1/5. I've got the longest driver. I'm not sure a 460-yard hole is the one to do it on necessarily, unless you're really giving up the tee shot, which I guess you kind of are. Just in CC, if people are playing into a headwind with the default clubs, that might be a little on the long side. Be interesting to see what other judges say on that one. I'm not averse to the concept, and I quite like this little bowl. I wonder if you were going for a disconnected green, like, could we have done something a bit more funky with the sloping? Like, could you put it down in a bowl and had like that going for it, or like surround it with fairway and have the break here and like you bounce a ball on or something, or make it, I don't know. For me, it screams like disconnected greens more like a really short par 4. Oh, I thought I might have had that one. You can see from the cutaway, same thing with the emptiness. I don't think I need to mention that one again. Right, bring us home. 16, playing over. Par 3s have had really strong locations, and actually the bunkering here looks spectacular. Yeah, really like this. Might have, again, planting here would have been good, I think, just to stop the whole feeling a bit separate to its surroundings, but this one looks really nice. And the green, I think, works really well. Considering this is disconnected, that backstop works well. I would generally look at placing. Okay, one other thought that comes to mind of a tendency that you may not be aware of. I think on all of the par threes, we haven't had fairway short that we can run a ball in on. So like there hasn't been an apron that we can bounce the ball on. So that backstop works really well because it's the first time we've been able to have a little bit of forgiveness long. But the first par three was the downhill one. I'm going to quickly cycle through the par threes. First par three can't have been that. It was. Okay, so that was the downhill one. No, it wasn't. That was the downhill one. What was this one? Oh, that was the uphill one where we played over those bunkers that were kind of vertical, horizontal. So that one you had no fairway short to bounce the ball on and run it on. This one was the one by the water where we could kind of just sneak it past the trees, but probably not really. This one was all carry over water. This one was all carry over the bunkers. And I had that right pin and I still wasn't really able to use the fairway short. And then this one. So I think that's one that's a tendency I'd really be careful of because that takes, like for a front pin, that makes it really difficult. Drivable par 4. Not drivable. It's a nice awkward distance because with the elevation change, it definitely isn't drivable. I could sneak it up here. There's a false front to deal with and chip's probably running long and that's not nice. I really like the green contouring. Like I'd like to see you do more stuff like this earlier on. Little runoffs and mounds and things like that. I think that's got infinitely more interest. I think this runoff here could be executed a little bit better. And we're dropping the land here, but like internal contouring, this has much more going on for it. It is another perpendicular green though. So our angle benefit is just hit it up here. Sand wedge pitch, not the shot I would have wanted in. Whee! Good, and that runoff works as intended. Always nice to test these things. Greens are subtly difficult. There's a putt. We'll take that for a 4. I feel like the green there was the saving grace on that hole. I thought the tee shot, it felt like a forced layup, really. Okay, and this was our other kind of not required, well, yeah, required element. So tee shot wise, we hit over the bunkers, perpendicular green. You maybe get a slightly better angle from this side, but because that red slope, the ball's going to kick on way through anyway. I think this is another one. The green complex doesn't necessarily fit with the tee shot. I would also be, again, trying to break up the horizontal lines and diagonal a bit more. Again, I think bringing this planting in here, etc., etc., etc. I like the view of the clubhouse. It's a cool amphitheatre. Can I bounce a shot on? Good try. We've hit the area. There we go. Oh, go on. Yeah, so it's kind of going to keep running. So at least we can get down to there, which is something. But I don't think you're ever going to be able to stop it near that pin because of how quickly it's coming in. If that, yeah, maybe that was the play. I don't know. Oh, we're woefully under hit. Oh yeah, before we hit the putt, just in case it goes in. Right. Perpendicular greens, because I think this is something that, well, from judging previous courses, this is a tendency, and it's one that I would love to see you change. So not 1, not 2. I think you probably want to do this maybe like 3 times on a course at most, because it does take away so many angles. Not 3, not 4. These were good. Not 5. Yes to 6. Yes to 7. No. kind of is, but we'll give that one a pass. Yes to 9. I think it's just that thing that happens when you're not really clocking the tendency. Not to these ones. And you'll notice this stretch was one of the strongest stretches on the course. I think that 10 to 12 stretch is the best one. We're on 3 currently, I think. 4 with this one. 5, admittedly a par 3. 6. Always are. Kind of, but a par 3, so I don't really mind so much. 7, 8. Like, there's enough that it's a really strong tendency. And when the thing is, because it's it's completely perpendicular, it just means that it doesn't really matter which way you go off the tee, because it can't generate an angle to any of the pins, or at least a different angle. I think it would just make life easier for you with framing as well, because you get more diagonals naturally in play. 1 under, what a rubbish round. It's the sort of course where if you are out of position, it's not easy to make putts and recoveries, but it is very forgiving. Like, certainly hit CC difficulty, even if the greens are maybe a touch tougher, a touch on the tougher end of the CC spectrum. What holes do I remember? I mean, I think 1 hit such a really good opening hole note, and I kind of would have loved for the course to get back to that rugged, like, kind of carefree, wild nature a little bit more. Equally, I thought 10 approach, 11, 12 is a really strong stretch as well, which I really liked. I thought the 16th is a par, 14 and 16 were strong par 3s, like both of those. And 11, I thought the back 9 par 3s were significantly stronger than the front 9 ones. Use of elevation change was really, really good. As mentioned, the floor is really, really high, but that's not what you're interested in. You know that, and we've talked about this a lot. You're looking for how to push your ceiling. I think it comes down to looking at green angles and orientations, like getting an idea of how you can generate angles by playing to one side of the fairway versus the other, and therefore the green orientation really affects that. If you put it side on, it negates basically whatever you're doing on the tee shot. Equally, with the tee shots, try to break up that tendency of just you hit over the corner of this bunker and you get both angle and distance. Looking at things like templates can really help with that, but also sometimes going, well, actually for this one, you've got a choice between angle or distance, or thinking about stance and where's your flat portion of the fairway, where's the sloping portion of the fairway. Because the elevation was really adding a lot of interest, but it was all, a lot of the time it was, can I carry this hazard? And sometimes it was yes, and that was therefore the automatic play. Why I thought 12, for example, was a really interesting par 5 was because it was a how much of this can I bite off, because everything was on the diagonal. The more we could do that, the better. What else would I add? There's not a lot. I mean, it's a really good course. Like, it does everything well. But what you're looking for is, what do you do outstandingly well, and where can you push that a little bit more? And I think those are the things that I'd really focus on. And that, I can't harp on about the perpendicular green thing enough. Like, that's going to make such a difference. Also, the other thing I would say is more greens you can do, like 1 and 17, where it's more like internal contours and like interesting stuff, the better. Hopefully this helps you and kind of gives you a little bit of something. I know you're in World Cup, maybe gives you something to take away for that. Really enjoyed it as ever. It's a fun round of golf. Best luck in the contest, and see you soon.